All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So what I'm going to get into today basically is single men being intimidated by women. I haven't done a podcast on this type of subject in a while, and I have a Mastering Self-Confidence program where I really do try to help men find the woman or women of their dreams. Even if they've been through a bad breakup or divorce, you can just go online and check that out. I'm not here to push the shit out of that or any of that, but I do have that, and I always forget to kind of mention that lately. But I was actually talking to a lot of my friends and different people lately. We went to a margarita ball, a gala, and I have somebody young who helps me with all my podcast stuff, and these younger guys I know. I have a lot of younger cousins and family members and friends too, all different ages. So I realize with a lot of young guys, and I might have discussed this way back in the past, I definitely talk about it in the program, is a lot of dudes now, I think, more than ever, it seems like they're intimidated by women when they meet them personally or they see them out in the street. So I've discussed this before. But what I want to touch on this subject a lot of times is, I'm going to kind of go back and forth with guys and women. I think also, I'm not here to throw women under the bus, but I do see a lot of women that I know or whatever that are, or if they are single or regardless what age they are. I mean, this goes for even all the way up to, women that are just older. I think a lot of our disposition now, men and women I should say, is very cold. It's not very comfortable. Because I think what's happened in society, and I am definitely the victim of this, but I'm with someone, so I could care less. But I think with our cell phones, as you know, we have a much better relationship with our cell phone. And I'm in and out of airports every day, constantly. So I've become the type of person who blocks everyone out. I don't even look anybody in the eyes anymore. I'm usually looking at my phone, or I'm just so focused because I'm just kind of got to get the job done. I don't want any bullshit. But I realize as I just look around a lot of people, and you can see who's married or who's not, maybe not, just by if they're wearing a wedding ring or if they're not with somebody or whatever. We are just so, for the most part, zoned into our phones. Of course, we have other people, if you're traveling with other people, talking. But I do hear women and men saying, especially women, I'm alone. I can't find anybody. I don't like the internet. I don't want to do any of that type of stuff. I just want to, meet somebody possibly, and maybe somebody will introduce me to somebody. Or when I go out, nobody really talks to me. Not a lot of guys even buy me drinks anymore, or even sit next to me to talk to me. And I think, for one, society is changing with that. I definitely think it's becoming more meeting people online, social media, apps, all those type of things. If you're not in that realm, I understand that. That is probably still the best way to go in this day and age. But if you're not, I get that as well. If you don't want to deal with the technology aspect, or you don't trust it, you don't feel it's safe. But if you're in public, and this really goes for the females too, and I'm not saying to open yourself up to being an asshole or talking to everybody or being a social butterfly. But if you are interested in a guy, kind of, and I'm not saying you have to send out all these signals, kind of, and he's looking at you, I'm just using this for an example, then kind of maybe you should be the one to break the ice a little bit. And guys, if you're looking at a girl, and if she's constantly, because most are looking at their phones, they're either, truthfully, it is what it is. They're on Instagram, or they're on Facebook, or they're texting. And I think what a lot of us look at when we see a guy or a girl texting, you're most likely thinking they're texting whoever they're dating or whoever they're married to, right? I do. I don't give a shit either way, but I'm thinking, oh yeah, look, they're texting each other. Like when I text who I'm with, because I don't text a lot of people. I usually send funny photos to my buddies or something like that, and if I'm going to be texting or talking, it's my girlfriend. And I think a lot of times we think that if they're busy texting or sending, a message, if it's whatever, it's on a social media platform, you think, oh, wow, she's probably got somebody, or she's got all these dudes that probably already want her on social media and whatever, and vice versa. I think a lot of women are looking at guys like, look at this guy, he's always on his phone. I'll bet you that's all he does. He probably watches YouTube videos because that's what I do. Or he's on ESPN, whatever the case. We kind of all judge each other that way. And I think it's put a huge barrier there. But here's the deal. Men and women, who gives a shit? If you see somebody you're interested in, you know what I mean? You don't want to be a perv or a stalker or any of the stupid shit. But if you see they're looking at you or vice versa, say hello. I mean, it's that simple. I think a lot of people have been programmed to think you got to do this or that or whatever. If you're in a Starbucks, and I've discussed this before, and you see someone, offer them a cup of coffee. If they say no, hey, worst case scenario, you tried. But I think a lot of people are looking to be social, but sending off the signal that they're not social. And I have that face. I got that resting bitch face. I call it resting jagoff face. I look like a goddamn, I don't know, I don't know if I'm like a monkey in a room. Like I look like an animal a lot of times. The way I walk, I think, and the way I act, and it's really not my disposition. I have no problems talking to anyone. If they want to talk, I can open and I can close just because it's the way I'm programmed. So if I see somebody, I can care less what I say to them. If I want to talk to anybody, I'm going to say something to them. I don't care if it's what age they are. I don't care what it is, if they got a puppy, if they got a baby, or whatever the case may be. I have no fear of that. I'm really good at that. I don't care how beautiful you are either. I don't give a shit. I don't care how handsome you are. I don't care how big you are. I don't care about any of that shit. But I think a lot of people shit in the pants when they need to learn how to open, basically. And by what I'm saying open is just start off with hello, hi. You don't have to be corny with it. You can always look at somebody and say, hey, what do I know about this person that I may be able to open? If they're wearing certain type of clothes, you may be like, oh, wow, that's cool. Open with it. If they follow up and keep a conversation going, you're in the game. If they shut you down and go back to their phone, you're out, right? And women too. If you see a dude you're interested in, he's looking on his phone, especially if you're younger, a lot of these guys are insecure. A lot of these guys, especially if they're younger, they only really know how to communicate for the most part through their phones. They're not usually used to, maybe in school they were talking to, their groups, but when they get outside of school or outside their, whatever environment they're in, they're nervous. They're scared. I'm going to tell you right now. They're not going to tell you that, especially if they see somebody they're attracted to. They don't know how to open. They have no idea how to do that, most of them. Some do. Some are, could pull it off, but most cannot. So you have to keep that in consideration. So regardless if you're a dude listening to this podcast or a girl, start opening yourself up to, if you are single and you are interested in people, show that you're interested. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. You cannot sit on a phone, because I was just discussing this with my friend too. He's got some beautiful girlfriends, and then we knew some guys or whatever, and he's like, can you believe this? She says that, she can't find a guy, and she's beautiful, and she's this, and she's whatever. And they were all they were showing pictures. And I said, well, look at the way she looks. And he's like, what are you talking about? I go, all her pictures, it's either, you could just tell, I could just tell that she just wasn't approachable. And I even said that. I'm like, yeah, well, who would approach her? Just look at the way, she looks. I mean, it's either a selfie or it's just her face, or you could just tell she had, and she's probably a very nice person. I'm not saying she's bad, but she looked like she just had an attitude all the time. And I also think by the way she was dressing, which is, may intimidate a lot of men, right? Because if she's in really good shape, dressing a certain way, a lot of dudes are looking at her going, how would this girl not have a dude? But then again, I'm not telling her to change the way she dresses or change the way she acts, but you can kind of just tell sometimes, if she looks almost upset in a lot of her pictures, or she just looks like she's a tough chick, which is fine. That's cool. A lot of dudes are going to back off that. And I'm not telling her to be Mrs., again, social butterfly. But again, when you're in public, or even if you go to a bar to have drinks or a nightclub, I don't care if you go to a coffee house or wherever you go and you're single and you want to meet people, be more open to meeting people. Don't look like you're kind of above it. I think a lot of people are they want to meet people, but they only want to meet a certain type of person, or they only want to meet this one person, or whatever they're caught up in their mind. Just realize too, and I discuss this all the time, it's not just about meeting one person. They have friends. They can introduce you to other people. And we already know who all our friends are, right? So if you're single and your friends, you don't want to be fixed up with any of your friends or family members or colleagues already. You're just not into that. You want to keep your distance. You want to go solo at it. A lot of times you go into a bar, and I discuss this all the time with dudes especially. It's not, a lot of times if you're meeting somebody or becoming friendly, especially a woman, she may not be interested in you, but she has tons of friends or other people she can introduce you to. And that same goes for women. You may see a guy that looks cool. He may not be the one you're attracted to. He just may be somebody you should socialize with. He may look like a surfer, and you're like, well, I don't like surfer dudes or whatever, but you're like, hey, what do? You strike up a conversation, right? And who knows who he knows? And I mean, he may know other surfers, but he may know a lot of other people. So you just got to keep an open mind. So anyways, I just thought I would do a podcast on this because I really see this more and more and more. And I'm not feeling sorry for guys either, because here's the deal, guys. And I think I grew up at a day and age, and I've discussed this before, where if you wanted to meet somebody, you had to talk to them. You just had to, or had to be introduced to them. That was just the only way it goes. And then you had to ask for a phone number. I mean, you just had to. And usually you called that phone number and you had to talk to their parents, most likely, to get to them. Then you had to go, if you went on a date, you had to meet the parents, whatever. That was the norm. Now, I'm not saying in a nightclub environment you meet people, but you still most likely had to get a phone number unless you did a one-night stand or any of that type of shit. But you had to talk to them. Where I think now you communicate first. It could be, especially on social media, you may meet people you don't even know, or at a dating app. You're communicating, which is fine too, which is kind of cool because you weed out all the bullshit, but you're communicating with one another before you actually truly meet one another, which is kind of interesting. And I'm not saying that doesn't work, because obviously it does work for a lot of people. And that's cool too. But just like I said, if you are in a social environment and you do see something or people you like, you have to have both things going for you. You've got to learn how to, I'm not saying master it, but you can't, I'm not even saying you have to master the internet thing or communicating that way, but you should definitely learn how to talk to people that you may be interested in. It's just something I think that and if you don't have to, but you can't sit around and then complain that there's all these beautiful women around and nobody wants to be with me. And same with the women. You're around all these dudes, and I discussed this in my program, even in my book, Wingman. You pass most likely, unless you're way out in the weeds, but you probably pass hundreds of men, and you pass hundreds of women, and you don't even acknowledge it. You don't talk to any of them every day. Thousands probably a month upon thousands. And some, if you're single, I can assure you, you were probably attracted to a lot of them, or you could have been, or you're just missing out on a lot of these things because, again, you've kind of set yourself, I think, away from them, or you're sending out a signal more than anything that stay away from me. I don't know how else to explain it, but I see that more and more, and I think our phones are one of the biggest problems with that. I also see it with computers too, and then people are just distracted in general, and I think us wearing headphones too, a lot of times we may not even be listening to anything on a phone, but it's kind of to shut everyone out. I do that as well when I travel or go in the mall so I don't get pitched. But again, I am walking and sending a signal out that says, don't bother me. I'm either listening to someone else or I'm focused in on something else. So if you're constantly sending that out, don't be shocked when you're alone, is basically what I'm saying. So hopefully you got something out of this podcast. Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there, but please, man, understand your disposition and your demeanor has a lot to do with the situation you're in your life, especially when I think it comes to meeting people. Yeah, you see people all the time and you're like, wow, but that's a cool person to hang out with, or I'd like to talk to them, or they're being social. Doesn't even mean they're the life of the party. But you just know that they pay attention. Someone's talking to them, they're listening, they're interacting, they're having fun, they're smiling, there's eye contact, all these type of things. And then you can look in a room and see somebody just looking straight down on their phone. They could be, and they just sit there for, it could be half an hour, just staring at their computer, which maybe they're just busy, but you can just see the different dispositions out there. And I think most of us are really zoned in on the phone, and we're sending out a signal we're too busy or we don't want to be bothered. So I didn't mean to get repetitive there, but that's really the two things. So if you're alone, you know what I mean? It's kind of on you. All right. I'm going to wrap it up there. Get a chance, you might want to check out my YouTube channel, Rich CELENZA. Like I said, I got my Mastering Self-Confidence program out there too. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And listen, guys, quit being a pussy. I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't get your head out of your ass, you know what I mean? Then it just doesn't. You learn to talk to women. I don't give a shit how whatever you have to figure out. Most guys have no problems talking to dudes, maybe even strangers. It could be about sports. It could be about anything. I see it constantly. Guys in the bar that don't know each other strike up a conversation in an airplane. Wherever the hell they are, they have no problems talking. But then when it comes to a woman, they shut down. They don't know what to say, especially if they're interested in them. The trick here is, say you are interested in them, pretend you're not. Pretend you're just talking to anybody, and that may be able to help you. Because a lot of times when somebody, you see somebody who is interested in somebody, they start talking like an idiot, or they try pickup lines or all the stupid shit. Put all that shit behind. First, just understand that's a person, and all you want to do is have a discussion with them. All right? All right. Take care, and if you're traveling, safe travels.